My wife texted, "Girls' night. Don't wait up." I replied with a screenshot and 4 words, "Ask him who sent this." She went offline immediately. If you're new here, hit subscribe now, because what happened after that message is the reason I stopped sleeping through the night. I read that text 3 times before I understood what I was looking at. It was 9:47 on a Friday, and the kitchen light above the stove was doing that thing where it flickers just slightly, like it can't decide whether to commit to being on. I was standing there in sweatpants, holding a phone that suddenly felt heavier than it should, staring at 11 words that told me everything and nothing at the same time. Girls' night. Don't wait up. Normal enough, on its own. Except I hadn't asked where she was. I hadn't asked anything. That text came in cold, unprompted, at 9:47, 13 minutes before her usual just checking in call. 9 months of marriage teaches you rhythm even when you don't realize you're learning it. She doesn't send updates unless there's a reason to preempt a question I haven't asked yet. So I did the thing I'm not proud of. I opened the shared photo backup we still had linked from her old phone, the one neither of us had bothered to disconnect since we moved in together. And there it was. A screenshot, synced 2 hours earlier, of a message thread with a contact saved only as a single letter. The letter matched no one I knew. The message underneath it said, "She's telling him girls' night. Don't say anything if he asks." My hands went cold first. Not my chest, not my throat, my hands. That's the detail nobody warns you about. The betrayal doesn't hit your heart first. It hits your fingertips, like the blood retreats to somewhere safer before the rest of you catches up. I didn't call her. I didn't text a paragraph of questions. I took that screenshot, the one she didn't know had synced to a phone she'd forgotten was still connected, and I sent it back to her with 4 words. Ask him who sent this. Then I put the phone face down on the counter and watched the flickering light for what felt like an hour, but was probably 90 seconds. When I picked it back up, her status had changed. Offline. Not last seen. Not typing. Offline. The way you go when you're deciding what to do with a body. By the second hour of silence, I'd already made a list in my head, the kind you make when you're trying to convince yourself you're not panicking. Maybe it's her sister. Maybe someone hacked the old phone. Maybe I'm about to ruin something over nothing. By the 3rd hour, she called. Not texted, called, which she almost never does. Why would you send that? Her voice was already sharp, already on offense, like I was the one who needed to explain myself. Send what? I said. The screenshot you didn't know I had, or the one where someone told you not to say anything if I asked. There was a pause. Not a short one. A long, structural pause. The kind where you can hear someone rebuilding a sentence 3 times before they say it out loud. It's not what you think. I don't think anything yet, I said. That's why I asked a question. You're the one who went dark for 2 hours instead of answering it. I was driving. You weren't driving 9 minutes ago when you posted a story. Another pause. Shorter this time, but heavier, like she realized I'd been checking. Okay. It's a friend. From before. He was helping me with something, and I didn't want it to be a whole conversation. That's all this is. A friend who tells you what to say to your husband. I said. That's not help. That's coaching. You're twisting it. I'm reading it back to you. She hung up. I want to tell you I called her back immediately, that I demanded she come home, that I did something decisive in that moment. I didn't. I sat at the kitchen table with the flickering light, and I did the only thing that felt like control. I started reading. Not snooping, reading. Every message on that backup, going back 4 months. Because once you find one crack in a wall, you start looking for the rest of them. And walls like that are never built with just one crack. The messages went back further than I expected. Not to something physical, not at first. Worse, in a way. It was strategy. It was her telling this person, this single letter saved in her phone like she was protecting a source, about arguments we'd had, private things I'd told her in confidence, moments of insecurity I'd only ever said out loud to her. And every time, his replies came back not as comfort, but as instruction. Say this. Don't bring that up yet. Let him think it's his idea. Wait until he's tired. He agrees to anything when he's tired. I wasn't looking at an affair. I was looking at a playbook. Someone had been coaching my wife on how to manage me for 4 months, and she'd been running the place. By the 4th day, she came home like nothing had happened. Set her bag down, kissed my cheek, asked what was for dinner, like the phone call, like the screenshot, like all of it had evaporated the second she walked through the door. I let her believe it had. That was the first calculated thing I did in this whole mess. And it wasn't revenge yet. It was just patience wearing a disguise. "We're okay?" she asked, later, in bed. In the dark, in that voice she uses when she wants reassurance without asking for it directly. "We're okay," I said. I lied with the same ease she'd been lying with for 4 months. Turns out it's a skill you pick up fast when you have a reason to. Here's a question for you while we're in the middle of this. If you found out someone had been coaching your partner on how to manage you behind your back, would you confront it immediately, or would you do what I did and go quiet and build something out of the silence? Drop your answer below. I want to see where people land on this. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't ask another question. Not one. I became the easiest person to live with. I agreed quickly. I stopped pushing back on small things. I wanted her to think the coaching was working, because the more she trusted the plays, the more she'd stop hiding the playbook. And she did. People always do. Confidence makes you sloppy. By the second week, she wasn't even using the old backup account carefully anymore. She'd occasionally leave her personal laptop open on the kitchen counter, logged into everything. Because why would she need to hide anything from a husband who'd stopped asking questions? That's where I found the calls. Not messages, actual calls, logged in an app one didn't know she used, going back almost a year. A year. Not 4 months. The 4 months I'd found were just the most recent chapter of something that had started before we even got married. I want to be honest about what that did to me, because I think people romanticize the moment of discovery as some clean, cinematic gut punch. It's not clean. It's cold. My hands went numb again. Exactly like that first night at the counter. Except this time there was no flickering light, just the pale glow of a laptop screen at 1 a.m. while she slept 8 feet away, breathing evenly, completely unaware that the ground under her plan had just given out. I spent the next 10 days building something quiet. I didn't hire anyone, didn't do anything dramatic. I just started documenting. Screenshots, timestamps, call logs, saved to 3 separate places she'd never think to check, including 1 email account she didn't know existed. I wasn't building a case for court yet. I was building a case for the moment I chose to detonate it, on my terms, not as a reaction, but as a decision. The moment came at her sister's engagement dinner, 3 weeks later. 20-some people, a private room at a restaurant in the suburbs, string lights, the whole performance of a happy, extended family. She'd asked me, that morning, to give a toast, something short, something sweet. You're good at that. She had no idea what short and sweet was about to mean. I stood up when the room had quieted for dessert. I said the opening lines everyone expects, how proud I was, how happy for her sister, standard material. And then I said I wanted to share something about loyalty, because it felt like the right night for it. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the small speaker someone had used earlier for music, and I played 4 seconds of an audio clip I'd pulled from one of the calls. Just 4 seconds. Just enough for the voice to be recognizable, and for the words, "Tell him you were driving," to land in a room full of people who all suddenly understood exactly whose voice that was, and exactly whose it wasn't. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said, I think some people in this family deserve to know who's been managing my marriage for the last year. And I sat back down. The fallout wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Her sister's fiancé's mother, who'd apparently known the other person's family for years, immediately understood the context none of the rest of us had. Within a week, that single letter identity unraveled into a name everyone in her social circle recognized. Someone from her past, she'd told me. A year earlier, she'd cut off completely. She didn't get to explain herself that night. She tried. In the car, on the way home, voice shaking, already rehearsing damage control, I recognized instantly, because I'd read the training material for 4 months. I didn't argue with her. I told her I'd already spoken to a lawyer that week, that the documentation was done, and that the version of this story her family had heard tonight was the only version I intended to let stand. She moved out 6 weeks later. Not because I asked her to, because staying became socially unbearable once the truth had a name attached to it. Last I heard, the coaching relationship didn't survive the exposure either. Funny how these arrangements built on control tend to collapse the second the control is gone. I'm not going to tell you I feel triumphant. I don't. I feel like someone who spent a year being managed and finally learned how the trick worked. I still live in the same apartment. I still notice the flicker in that kitchen light, because I never got around to fixing it, and some nights I think I keep it that way on purpose, like a reminder of the exact moment I stopped being easy to manage. Edit. A lot of you are asking why I didn't confront her the first night when I found the original screenshot. Honestly, I think confrontation in the moment gives the other person time to build a better lie. Silence gives you time to build a better truth. Edit. Some of you want to know if the other person ever reached out to me directly. Once. A message, weeks later, that just said, "You didn't have to do it like that." I didn't respond. Some things don't deserve an answer, only a record. Edit. A few people asked what happened to the old shared photo backup that started all of this. I left it connected for another month after she moved out, just in case there was one more crack in the wall. There wasn't. Some walls only need one crack to come down completely. If you've made it this far, you already know what I'm going to ask. Tell me in the comments what you would have done differently, and stick around, because the next story I'm telling is about the voicemail I almost deleted and what was actually recorded underneath it.